All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a special episode of Matt Chat. Today I am joined by two of the new Iowa State coaching staff, former national champions for the University of Iowa, Derek St. John and Brent Metcalf. Guys, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thanks so much for carving some time out this weekend. There's a lot to get into, so let's get into it. Derek, you coached alongside Coach Dresser at Virginia Tech, and obviously you enjoyed the experience. How easy was the decision to come over here to Iowa State?
For me, growing up in Iowa and growing up literally an hour, 10 minutes down the road, to be able to come back home close to my family, is pretty easy decision to make the move, and already having a relationship already established with Dresser and being able to work really well together was a no-brainer and really easy transition.
How was it? Was it weird or uncomfortable at all going from being a Hawkeye to a Cyclone, and not just sort of in spirit, but literally competing against these guys? That's obviously one of the main goals.
No, honestly, it wasn't. I've been away from the Iowa wrestling program it's going on my fourth year, being away. And since I've been away, I haven't really been that involved in that program or really been involved with anybody associated with the program either, you know what I mean? So it was, it's another opportunity and a way for me to advance in position. And
move up the coaching ladder, right?
Yep.
And you said the transition's been pretty smooth. How has it been back coming to the state of Iowa? I know you mentioned family, but has it been as good as you thought, better?
It's way better, honestly.
Yeah?
I didn't really know what to expect walking into it, but just the fans and the community and the administration here has just been like welcoming with open arms, and there's been a ton of support, and we're just continuing to build it, and people they keep swarming in, keep coming to our fundraisers, keep coming into our practices. It's been great.
Yeah, and I guess for either one of you that want to answer this, I saw something where you guys are about to break the record for season ticket sales beforehand. The level of excitement, I'm in St. Louis, so it's 5-6 hours away. It's a completely different view than being inside of it. But from your guys' perspective, watching this build, coming from a place where 15,000, 16,000 people at a dual meet was the norm, where you guys had that 11th man, so to speak. What's it like to be sort of part of the organic process of making this thing jump to the next level?
Yeah, we broke that record a day or two ago.
Okay.
And for us, I think it was a no-brainer. The number was 1,500 or around that area, and we were kind of like, well, we want 2,500.
Right.
We want this, and I think it was really good because we kind of showed them our expectation, and they maybe thought, well, we'll see, guys. And the fans, they responded right away, and we haven't even began to push it, which is what's really cool.
Really? Tell me about
it. We haven't even done any promotional and marketing yet, so we're excited about that. Going off of what he said, that goes to show how excited this fan base is, how excited probably the state of Iowa is. I know a lot of Hawk fans too, who I know who have bought both tickets just because they want to be a part of it, right? So that's good, and I think, again, we're setting the bar even higher. Like, that to us, that record was great. We broke that record, but we want to make new records in here. So that's kind of the direction we're aiming for. I think they set the next goal at 2,000. Well, let's break that.
I said that's probably not your guys' goal. You're going right through that too, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
5, 6, 7,000. That'd be a good goal.
Goes back to winning all areas of the wrestling, right? And ticket sales is one of them. I think I just seen a thing where Rutgers is maybe 2,000, so we got to beat them in that aspect of it too. So
You said something. I'm gonna go off a tangent, but you said something interesting. You said about how the Iowa fans, some of them are buying tickets for both you guys. When you guys were at Iowa, there really wasn't a rivalry. I mean, you guys wrestled, but it wasn't like, well, gosh, who knows who's going to win this meet, And that's kind of happened the same in, Oklahoma and Oklahoma State. Obviously, you're on the other side of it now, and I know your goal would be to shut them out with 10 pins this year, but, there's realities, between jumping to that level. How important just overall, as guys that have spent a lot of time in Iowa, as a native of Iowa, for you, Derek, is it just to see where, like, man, like on paper, this is a 5-5 duel, and it might come down to bonus points, or, it might come down to an upset. Like, how important is that to just for the overall state of Iowa with no pro teams and things like that, for you guys to be on that level with them?
When I was in school, it was a pretty good rival. The last duel we wrestled in, it was split 5-5.
Okay.
Jake Varner got the major, I got the pin, so Iowa ends up winning.
Yeah.
Is how it basically went down. So I got to live some of that excitement, and then it kind of dropped off probably immediately because I don't think it was what you competed.
But my second year ended.
Yeah.
When I kind of
So, yeah, I think it's super important to get it back to there, not only out of our own selfish wants,
Sure.
right, for the program, but for the state of Iowa, because what we've seen, and as we see as we go out and we meet different people, is that these people are still fans. There's still a lot of wrestling fans out there that have kind of just opted to stay home, and to get them back engaged and to get them back and excited again is good, and it's what we want. It's part of the reason why we're here, right, is to get those Iowa fans back out and really put on a show for them. That's ultimately what it's all about. And to talk about any expectations, that would be my expectations, that our guys go out and compete hard for every single second, and they put on a show. And that when people walk away, regardless if it's we win all 10 with 10 pins or not, they walked away viewing our team like, okay, these guys, they wrestled their butts off. It was entertaining, right?
Yeah, and it brings up another point. Like, right now, I know every coach in the country, if you ask them, you go, we want 10 guys to go to national, 10 conference champions, or, regional champions, whatever the right term is, 10 national champions, everybody pin 5 guys, and they pin the guy in the pigtail. Obviously, certain schools are much closer or further from that. So it seems like you guys have created steps along the way, like, hey, ultimately that's our goal. But right now, like you said, we're going to work our butts off. We're going to, put a fan show on for the fans. Do you guys literally have like written, tangible goals on the way up to being national champions? And if so, what are those?
I think we're all pretty much on the same page. We all have the same kind of mindset and same realistic goals for this team. For us to maybe just step in there and, like you said, go win the nationals, have 10 national champs and pin our way through it. Is it realistic? I don't think it still hasn't been done yet, right? So
sure.
It's probably not a realistic goal. But for us, and where this team's coming from, it is huge for us just to be able to go out there and fight tooth and nail for 7 minutes. And a lot of people around this area, they come in when they start talking, it's about, well, they always fade in the third, right? Well, now that's number one priority. That just can't happen, right? It's just not going to be acceptable. So establishing that, trying to ingrain that in these kids, where you're literally walking out there to fight tooth and nail, regardless of the results. Obviously, you want to win every single time you step out there, right? So that's still the mindset. But is it realistic? Probably not. But we will have it ingrained in there that they're going to at least go out there and fight tooth and nail for every second of that match.
I think it's a great point, too, because, you guys obviously, were great wrestlers all along the way, but like anybody, I'm sure at some point in the process you were taking some butt kickings, and sometimes it's just, man, I'm just going to try to, when I'm done wrestling with Brent today, I don't want him to go to his friends and go, that guy quit on me. Like, maybe kick the hell out of me, but I got back up, I kept trying to get to a leg. Hey, when Derek was beating the crap out of me, I just kept coming, and like, maybe all I can do today is earn respect. Maybe tomorrow, maybe I can get to a leg. Maybe Friday I can get the leg in the air. Maybe Monday I can finish a takedown. Is that kind of what I hear you guys saying? The mentality is just be tough and just grow from there?
I think ultimately, too, is we get them there where they're fighting tooth and nail, and then how you're going to have the success that you're talking about is that they start to believe it. So through that, they start to believe that they can be national champions. Because we walk in and we believe it with what we see. We see guys going, hey, I believe you can do it, right? But until they believe it, and it's part of that process, it's part of the training, it's part of them competing and seeing those little moments of success on the mat, then once they start to believe it, now you're opening up the possibilities of doing the sort of things you talked about, which is getting guys in the national finals, winning national titles, So, yeah, for me at least, I don't think that there's anything like we're going to make a prediction, we want to do this.
Sure.
To me, it's like, let's hit these little markers and it'll happen. I know darn well that it'll happen. If these guys buy into themselves and into what we're doing, that it'll lead them to as far as they want to go.
It sounds a lot like there's a process. You guys believe in it. You bring this process together. Derek, you said, we're on the same page. So even if you have slightly different approaches, they're going to parallel each other. So you said something really interesting that, you know, I'm on your team hypothetically, and you're two of my coaches, and both of you are national champions. So in terms of collegiate wrestling, you've been to the pinnacle. So when you say to me, David, I think you can be a national champion, I see that in you. I think immediately that would give me more confidence. But if I thought I had a 5 or 0% chance, and now you guys say that to me, maybe now I'm at 5 or 10 or 10 or 15. What are the things you do to help these guys, not just physically, technique-wise, but what are some of the mental games, mental strategies? What, you know, pats on the back, you know, the carrot or the whip? What are some of the things you do to try to get me from 15 to 100? Because once I get to 100, I think that's when the physical breakthroughs start coming through, right?
For me, I know this is a huge part of it. Just the way I approach it is it's my relationship with you. If you trust me and you believe what I'm saying, and we are on the same page, you're going to want it. If I ask you to go run through a wall, you're probably going to go do it for me, or vice versa. If you ask me to run through a wall for you, I'm going to do it. Am I going to run through the wall? No, probably not. But those, you know, you get the correlation there where it's if the kid trusts you, he's going to be more willing to do everything you ask him to and be able to throw not caution them, but be able to go out there and just fight tooth and nail, kind of back to where we're talking, and be able to go achieve those, you know, at the end, those goals too.
Besides just literally being genuine, you know, and literally being there for guys, if I call you at 9, go, hey, can I get a second workout? Can we set up a time in the morning to watch film? Besides the things that I think most good coaches think about and do, what are maybe a thing or two that you guys either you do or you've done in the past, or that maybe a coach did for you, maybe the brands did for you, that really helped you build that relationship that you're talking about?
Oh, I can't think of any maybe specific examples. I think to go back maybe to your original question is that every guy's different. There are certain guys on that team that you're going to need to hound, right? And
sure.
Hounding. And there's certain guys where you got to play a game with them, not a game if that's the right word, where it's like you're building them up, but then you kind of hound them a little bit at moments, like really softly, so that their behavior, you know, not behavior, but so that you get what you want. But then as soon as you get what you want, you're patting them on the back. Whereas a different guy, he may not respond that way, you know. So every kid's different in the way that maybe you try to build them up. Any maybe examples to me, a lot of the things that I can think about were just like intrinsic stuff. Just stuff that just came from myself in practice. And that's, to me, so if I said a coach did this to me, a coach can get you to a certain point in practice. Right, as far as being exhausted or put you in a position to succeed.
Yes.
Right? And then this is where the intrinsic comes from, in that there were moments that I failed, and then there was moments where I had success. And those moments where I had success is when it clicked and when I went to that next level. So for me as a coach, with each individual is different, you want to get them to those, wherever those barriers are.
Put them in those moments.
Put them in there, and then they might fail, but as soon as you get them to I don't know, buy-in is a word, but succeed or have success, or something clicks for them, that's kind of how you develop them. So that's, I don't know if that's a roundabout answer to what your question is, but I don't know. To me, I don't really like mind games. I don't really buy into like games that work on guys. I think that it's more just what he talked about, which is know that they care about you, know that they believe in you, and then secondly, putting them in positions to have success, and then as they do, they're going to start climbing that ladder, if you want to call it, to get to where they want to be.
Yeah, I mean, for what it's worth, as a coach for a lot of years in college, and I believe the same thing you guys are saying, and it's tricky. You never know when those moments are going to come, right? It might just be a random Tuesday in October, and some guy finds his way through. So, Brent, your path here at Iowa State is really a unique one. And after your competitive career in 2016, you accepted the developmental coaching job with USA Wrestling, and then obviously this job came to you. So, how did it come to you? The job you left was obviously a great one. You know, so what were sort of the pros and cons? And I don't know, but everything I've ever observed or read about you or listened to, you're a supremely competitive guy. So what was maybe the ultimate deciding factor between trying to compete to coach the best 17 to 20-year-olds in the world versus trying to bring a national title to Ames?
There's a lot of layers and a lot of things in there, but probably the most simple answer is that I love freestyle wrestling, and I love the international competition, and I love the travel, and I love going to Russia.
The lifestyle, all of it.
And just like fighting for water, and fighting for saunas, and fighting to get your hotel room because they say you don't have, so to me, I love that. I was super, very, very, very excited about that. But then you throw in your family, your kids, things of that nature. And then also maybe my goals in general, which was, I knew that was probably a stepping stone, that job was.
You didn't see it as like, I'm going to be in this job for the next 25 years.
Maybe. Here's the thing, I don't really operate that way, where I'm like, here's what I mean, is I don't take a job and say, this is the job I want for the rest of my life, right? Like, to me, I'm going to do the best with what I've got right now.
Yeah.
And you don't know what's going to happen.
Sure.
Down the road. So taking that job, I think that I just had some perspective where I was like, well, I'm really excited about it, and I loved doing it. I did it for part-time, more or less, for about 5-6 months. But I just had a feeling it was like, one of these days I would probably have to move on, because Bill Zadig is, the next step's Bill, right?
Yeah.
So I would probably have to move on. So that's maybe a layer.
Sure.
There. And then secondly was just, this was a perfect job opportunity.
So how did this come? Did Coach Stresser just call you? Was it just that simple, or?
It was pretty much as simple as, we had not bought a house or got a place to live yet in Colorado. We were packing up the car to drive to Colorado to go pick out a place.
This is awesome. Go ahead. Yeah.
And I got the phone call, and instead of driving to Colorado,
like halfway on the highway.
Pretty much. Instead of driving to Colorado that day, I drove up to here, and took the visitor with me.
So literally, if they called 2 days later, it might have been different.
Yeah, I probably would have had a house bought or rented or whatever we were.
Wow.
And it would have been a lot
Karma,
tougher.
it's kismet, right?
A lot tougher to change
gears.
direction, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it was too perfect of an opportunity, I think, as far as just staying in the state of Iowa. I do love the state of Iowa. I love being a part of wrestling in the state of Iowa, and getting back with these guys. Obviously, Dresser and I, it's a developing relationship.
Yeah.
However many months it's been, 6 months maybe, that we're getting to know each other. It's been very good. But Derek and Mike was my coach in college,
Yeah.
So I had a great relationship with these guys, so that was something I was really looking forward to. I thought would be really great, and it has been. So I don't know if I said that in a way that the UC wrestling job, I was super excited about. This was just, when it came to weigh things out, it's just like, this was kind of the way I laid. My wife's family's 2 hours from here.
Yeah.
That helped her.
Coach Stresser's family is from here too, right? Humboldt?
Humboldt.
So,
yeah. Yeah, no, it's a great answer. And what's interesting is I'm lucky I get to, my normal is now to every week to talk to guys like you, and there's always one thing, I write up questions, and I think I know where the answers are going to go. But the cool thing about writing up questions is you can just listen, and there's always some cool thing like that. So it's crazy that literally if they'd called you 48, 72 hours later, you might have had a 30-year mortgage.
Yeah.
The financial planner in me is popping up right now trying to figure out, your tax gains. So one of the things I wanted to ask both of you, so I don't really care who goes first, but there's so many aspects of coaching, things like, you guys are still young and in great shape, like live goes, one-on-one private training sessions, teaching the overall group, recruiting, managing APR, all those things. Which of the areas are your favorites, and which of the ones you're like, I'm a young guy, I know eventually I want to be a head coach, which I'd assume are your goals or aspirations. Which you go, this is something I really need to focus to learn on, so that when it's my time, I've got a grasp on it. And it doesn't matter who goes first.
Probably my favorites, which is pretty general consensus, would be the wrestling room, the development. To me, it's just more natural. It's something I can walk into any wrestling room in the country in front of any group of guys, and I feel like I can just work with them, and we can help
bring value right away. Yeah.
So it's something that comes really natural to me, regardless of what it is, whether it's one-on-one training or daily practices. If I had to prefer one, it would be those morning one-on-ones, because I feel like you see the most growth then compared to when you got a larger group of guys. So an area that I maybe need to work on, or an area that I guess on the opposite spectrum, being a volunteer, I don't do any of the recruiting. So that's something from outside in. I'm kind of just trying to watch and just learn.
Observing, yeah.
Something that Dresser does a great job of, probably what he's best at, is fundraising, is bringing people together, excitement, season ticket sales. Right?
Building a cause.
Yeah, so all these things, that's something to me that like is just foreign to me, because my whole life it's been wrestle.
Even the other side of the fence. Yeah.
All the other stuff in the world, it don't matter. Step on the mat, train, wrestle, go do it. And the other stuff was happening, I didn't know about it. You know, I didn't have to concern myself.
And you didn't want to care about it at that point.
Yeah, so that's kind of where I come from, is that this is a really great opportunity for me, because I can learn a lot of these things, and I'm trying to get myself into as much stuff as I can legally, right?
Sure, of course.
And just soak it up and learn.
Cool.
He basically took the words right out of my mouth.
Same strengths and...
What you like is probably what comes easy to you.
Yeah.
So, being able to develop guys, work that one-on-one stuff, building relationships with them is the funnest, and obviously probably one of the easier parts.
And obviously critically important too.
Yes, right. You're not going to have a program unless you can develop guys. So, by far the hardest part of it is the recruiting, hands down. You're walking in cold turkey in some instances, and you're trying to convince a 16, 17, 18-year-old kid to come buy into you for 5+ years, right? So it's not just him, but his parents too, or coaches, or whoever.
All of them, right?
But holy smokes, that's tough, and a lot of these kids have a lot of things thrown at them, but getting them to kind of buy into what you're saying without actually being able to show them, is one thing. And that's an area that, like Dresser, like Metcalf touched on, is very, very good. He's getting very, very good at getting in front of kids and their parents, and in front of these these big fundraising groups, and be able to
donors. Yeah.
He's a great public speaker, and that's an area where, especially for me, I'm going to have to work at. So
yeah, it's interesting, because I just had Brian Smith on a couple weeks ago, and he said, he said I had to literally take public speaking classes, because I loved the nuts and bolts of it, which is you guys talking about, going in the room, wrestling with the guys, and he goes, I thought I was a pretty good recruiter. He goes, but public speaking is it's a whole nother beast, a whole nother animal. And, and he was talking about it directly too, creating the energy you were talking about, Brent, and fundraising. And, you can feel it when you walk on the campus here. I mean, I actually came to Iowa State out of high school, and that's right after Iowa State had broken Iowa's record to win the 10th. That's how old, I'm old. But black and white TVs and fat backs and all those kind of things. But you can feel the energy. It's different. One of the guys we're coaching here was on a recruiting trip last week, and he was like, "Man, they're gonna do good things there. Like, it's not just like they can see your vision. So it's awesome." So I had a chance to talk to Coach Dresser a couple months ago, and I'm friends with Tony Roby, and he has a lot of admiration for him. And the things that I've heard about him is he's really known for his work ethic and his attention to detail and level of organization. And so for you guys that you'd love to just put on your t-shirts and shorts 6-7 hours a day and point me out who you need me to work out with, and let me get Derek better, David better, whoever better. What are you guys learning from him in these other categories? I know he sort of touched on it, but does he sort of specifically mentor you, or is it just hey, watch what I'm doing and ask questions as you need to? I mean, especially I would think with you, Derek, because recruiting is that's literally on your job description. Yeah. For somebody who's maybe a little more quiet, and you're not just going to get out and start barking at people. How has he been a mentor to you in that process?
Just soaking it in, really being put in those situations and learning different little maybe tricks, or not really tricks, because you're developing
things that make you comfortable.
Is developing a relationship with me and the student athlete, right, or me or you if I'm recruiting you. So it's the same thing that you're essentially doing in here, but on a level where you're not in front of the kid every single day. You know what I mean? So it's definitely, that's where it gets tougher. So, but going back to what you're asking is when you're put in these situations, like Dresser's maybe talking to a donor, or he's talking to a group of whoever it may be, students or whoever, you're in that situation, you're learning how he maybe approaches it or how he delivers his message. And
you're sitting there with him and listening.
And Metcalf's a really good public speaker, and Zadok's really, really good, just motivational and being able to get in front of a group of people. And so, just being around these guys and being able to soak some of that in, and, for a guy that isn't always rah, 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 he just I'm more reserved and deliberate, I guess, on my message or my
delivery.
So.
Yeah. And obviously your title, Brent, is a little different where certain things are within and not within the scope of your job.
Yeah, what I think that he does a very good job, and obviously this is still pretty fresh for me, so there's a long road to go for us as far as our relationship goes, or our coaching, working together. But what I think he's done a very good job of is kind of assigning you things to do that maybe wouldn't be necessarily
What you
job,
picked.
whatever, but he'd be like, hey, I got this, it's like something he's got to do, but he'll be like, hey, I got this to do. Why don't you go try to figure it out and see? And it kind of challenges you in an area that maybe he'd be really good at doing.
Yeah.
And now you've got to kind of adapt and kind of figure it out. And then you could go to him and say, hey. Like,
And you want it to be great. You don't want to let him down, so you're going to find a way to be great at it.
So he does a good job of, and kind of almost intentionally too, where he'll be like, hey,
Figure it
I'm
out.
giving you this because I think this will be valuable to you.
Professional development kind of thing.
Yeah, so he does a good job of doing that.
I see you guys smiling like there's specific examples rolling through your
Yeah.
heads, I can tell.
So I think he does a good job of that. And then probably the thing, just in the short time I've been here, is just the whole vision of it, which we've already talked about, but just as far as just building that community, all these different things that we've done in such a short time, that I kind of, when I go home, I sit and I'd be like, well, what would I have done if I'd taken that program over? And it wouldn't have been even a part of that. It would have just been wrestling room only.
You mean what Coach Stresser's doing versus what your path would have been?
Yeah, like if I had to put myself in his shoes,
It's pretty honest,
So-
right? That's a very honest way to look at
Yeah,
it, right?
like I wouldn't have done any of that. Like it wouldn't have been in my scope of things that were priority, right?
Scope's a great word there. It's just not in your
So,
vision line, yeah.
There's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that you don't ever think about, right?
And he does.
And that's the stuff he's really, really great at. He lets us three kind of control the wrestling room aspect of it a little bit more. And it works his butt off, and he is always on the go doing all the background stuff. And he does a terrific job, especially like you could talk about the recruiting, the fundraising, and all the other stuff, administrative stuff. So.
But you can hear it in your guy's voice and how you literally talk about him and your facial expressions that even though he might be turning the room over, like people on the outside might go, oh, okay, well, these three guys are really coaching the guys. But I think you guys look at it like he's our coach. He's putting us in positions to excel. And so when these guys excel on the mat, it's an extension of Coach Stresser's. That am I?
That'd be a very good way to put it.
So, one of the things I think if anybody understands college wrestling is you can't ever win a horse race with a bunch of Clydesdales. You got to go out and get the studs. And recently you guys, and I know it's not signed, but you got a verbal from David Carr. I know there's certain things you can and can't talk about a specific kid, but let's just talk about in general. When you land a top 10 pound for pound kid, what does that do for your program? When we were covering it for track, and Andy Hamilton told me about, called me about it. And I'm like, they just planted a flag. Everything up there has kind of been, if you wanted to poo-poo it, it's kind of been hype. You can sell tickets, but who knows if they're going to be any better. You can raise money, but they still might not be good. They've got an RTC, but until guys start winning. But you go get a legitimate, bona fide, pound-for-pound stud who just happens to be around the weight class where the three assistant coaches might be able to roll around with them a little bit. To me, that's a significant drop the mic, let's get to work statement. What did that mean?
It's never really over, so you got one, right?
No, it's always
a great
evolving.
start.
That's right.
It's a milestone, right? That's
Yeah.
our first legit,
It's a benchmark. Yeah.
big-time recruit. Obviously, we've had some really good ones prior to that, but I can't say the names, but
Sure.
some really good in-state kids, and then being able to go pick, like you said, a top 10 pound-for-pound kid in the country, that's probably really, really tied into those other kids that are already.
He might be a little bit good at social
networking.
networking, yeah.
They go out to these training center camps, and they're all around each other all the time. So they have those relationships, and they know who they get along with. So being able to use that as a recruiting tool too, use the kid as a recruiting tool is huge. I don't know if you want to add anything to it, but in my mind,
Yes, for me, it
use the kid
gets the
too.
ball rolling. The only sentence I think of is it makes it okay to come here now,
Agreed. Yeah.
And that somebody had to.
Someone's got to go first, right?
Someone had to make the move. I look back at maybe my recruiting and how where I went
To Virginia Tech originally.
Without not myself, but just all of us making that, it would just felt flat, right? No matter how great a coach.
I'll say it about you. You guys are blue chip guys, and if one of you or two of you don't go, maybe the other guys don't go. Somebody has to go first.
That's kind of how I view it. Is the first ball just dropped? Now we can start piling, because ultimately, if you want to have one of the best programs, you got to consistently be getting guys.
Multiple guys like that, but it starts with one, right? Yeah.
And we've been. I mean, ultimately, too, a priority for us was that in-state battle, and I think we did a pretty good job in-state this year. We always want to do a lot, obviously build on it and do better. But he mentioned, too, we got some really great in-state guys that we're excited about, and that was huge for us, too, because
yeah, sure, absolutely.
An area where you said there was no, where we started this interview, where you said there wasn't really a rivalry between us. When I competed, it was because the other side of the state got all the in-state guys. So I think that's significant too, that you start pulling those in-state guys here, and now you're making yourself more competitive and making that rivalry.
And it's making it cool for the Iowa kids to come to Iowa State too.
The kids that grew up on the rivalries, so the state's hungry for that. It goes all the way back to people that are your age or older.
St. John just made me feel really old. Just killing me. It's like 4 times this weekend I've been killed.
That rivalry's been there for a long time, and they don't have it, and people are hungry. They're starving.
My dad was a graduate assistant here when Dan Gable wrestled. It was one of the reasons why I wanted to come here. You talk about him and Jason Smith and all these guys, and the Peterson brothers, and legends. To me they were legends. And you walk through and you see those names and things like that. So, just a couple last questions. First of all, I want to give you guys a chance to give Hector Gomez and the guys who are running Agony in Ames a shout out. You guys are obviously here, and but you guys want to say anything about that event, because this will come out in a week, but we're actually here interviewing Saturday around 4 p.m. right before the show goes live.
No, I think Hector's done a great job of reaching out to these kids and pulling out some of the younger top prospects in the country right now. Obviously we can't really have contact with these kids or anything, but just being able to have them in front of us.
It's got to be awful having them on campus, right? It's terrible.
Being able to just observe them, is huge, and
sure,
see them in passing. But Hector's done a heck of a job with organizing and getting things done with the whole event and bringing these kids in. It's huge for a program, and being able to get these kids.
And he's got those little kids too, so they're used to being on the campus and seeing excellence. Is that kind of your viewpoint on it?
My viewpoint is Hector's a great guy, a great family, and a great asset to us, and we really appreciate everything that he does.
Yeah, shout out to Hector. Yeah. So one last thing, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Fran too. I mean, they. Out there is always
for sure
hustling and getting things done,
making it happen. So just the last thing that I noticed in the course of the interview is I can tell how close you guys are. I don't know if anybody's pointed this out. You guys notice you never use each other's first names?
No, I don't know. I think that stems way back.
Just from being teammates, probably. That's normal on a team, right? You get used last names. I think it's a wrestling thing, probably.
It's all last names and nicknames, right?
Yeah, so that's probably where it stems from. I've been calling him Derek lately, and I feel weird saying it.
Going back to St. John or DSJ or something?
Well, there's 2 of them now, so you got to kind of specify a little bit.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything else you want to say to the community, about Iowa State wrestling before we sign off?
Just thanks for the support. Hopefully we can be able to get out there and put on a show for you guys.
Yeah. Keep buying season tickets.
Where do they go? If they want to buy season tickets, where do they go?
Probably go to Twitter, Facebook, find a link.
Ticket office link.
Google Iowa State Wrestling season tickets, right?
So.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was Brent Metcalf and Derek St. John. This is David Mercatani with Matt Chat. We'll speak to y'all next week.